Hey everyone, Christopher Ruocchio here, author of the Sun Eater science fantasy series from Doll Books, and junior editor at Baen Books, where I've worked with science fiction and fantasy writers for, about 5 years now. So as many of you will know, I've been working on the fourth book in the Sun Eater series. I just finished chapter 10 of about 75 last night, and being back in the trenches, so to speak, has got me thinking more about the writing process itself. I had kind of a slow week last week, 3 days in a row where I wasn't writing, and whenever something like that happens, I have to stop myself and ask why. What's gotten in my way? Now, very often the answer is structural. I have an outside obligation, a family thing, or perhaps work has just gotten a little too heavy for that week. In this case, my little brother graduated college on Friday, and in light of the world health situation, he wasn't able to celebrate properly, so we went over to my parents' house and had dinner and spent some time with him. Well done, Andy, by the way. Some other times it's psychological. Being stuck at home without any expectations that I should, say, arrive at the office by 9 a.m., which in turn necessitates waking up at specific times and accomplishing specific tasks before I have to be in the car, has contributed to a pretty wacky sleep cycle. But let's set all that aside. I want to talk about writer's block. Specifically, I want to talk about what it isn't. This is one of those questions that every writer gets all the time, even from people we've just met at a party who's just learned that we write professionally. It's certainly a popular question on convention panels as well, I think because writing, especially fiction writing, is one of those jobs that's so heavily romanticized in popular culture. The writer is often conceived of as struggling with his or her work, as if it's somehow a tougher job than digging ditches or running power lines, which it isn't, by the way. I have no stomach for writers who pretend this is a harder job than manual labor and not a dream come true, but that's another video. Writing is a trade, though, that's for sure, and I don't think much of the puff pieces about writers that focus on the idiosyncrasies of their work ethic, the way Proust would almost never leave his bed or Trumbo would write in his bathtub. Stories about how writer A will only work on an ancient desktop in his summer house, or writer B can only work in a special writing room when she's guaranteed a block of several hours away from the rest of her life. Or the way that writer C can only write by the light of tallow candles beneath a blood moon sky. It's not witchcraft. There are no muses, but it is an art, a craft that can be practiced. And I'm not claiming to be the world's greatest practitioner either. So what is writer's block? What about writer's block? Well, it's not a problem with writing. Ask yourself, how many times have you sat down with the intention to write your scene and stared at the word processor or the page blankly for 10 minutes, gotten through a false start or two, lived through a couple hundred words, and then checked Facebook, Twitter, maybe watched a YouTube video or two, and decided you've been at it a while and really ought to take a break? You could do something productive. You could clean the house or go to the store, throw out the trash. You can come back later. After all, you've cranked out a whole half page. Am I projecting? Well, you bet I am. But I'd be prepared to bet a pint of blood that my projection looks a lot like other people's lives. So, after you've dusted all your shelves and watched another couple videos, you tinker a bit with what you've written, realize that writing might be a lost cause today, and you tab over to Facebook again, where, by God, you discover someone is wrong on the internet. You can't believe they thought the Star Wars sequels were any good, so you start composing a reply, and before you know it, you're 1,000 words into a diatribe about the mischaracterization of Luke Skywalker. See? You can write just fine. So why couldn't you have written your book instead? That's a question I've asked myself a lot, and the answer is easy. Books are hard. They have characters and dialogue and plot. Your Facebook post, however correct it may be in critiquing the decline of one of sci-fi's most beloved institutions, well, that's easy. I mean, the argument makes itself in that case. Now, this has bothered me for years. Writer's block is badly named. Writer's block has nothing to do with the mechanism of writing. It's deeper than that. Writer's block is a failure to plan, or at least a failure to fully visualize a plan. This is perhaps not revolutionary thought, but recognizing the nature of the problem is the first step to fixing it. Leaving writer's block conceptualized as only, I can't seem to write today, or I'm just not in the mood, isn't helpful. It doesn't give us a leg up on the problem. Besides, being a professional writer or wanting to be one means being a professional. Bricklayers don't stop laying brick because they're just not in the mood. Ditches have to be dug. Writing is one of the very few professions where mood is seen by many as a valid excuse for not getting the work done, which is weird when you stop and think about it. Now, I can hear the sharpening of pitchforks already, but Christopher, you say, what about writers with depression or writers with second jobs or other serious obligations or impediments? Now, I'm not advocating that those writers should simply, quote the Eagles, get over it. I'm trying to help people. And to those of you struggling with your own writing, I think that saying, well, it's okay to not write sometimes, while true, it is okay not to write sometimes, doesn't really help you solve your problem. So what does? In a word, planning. You have to step back and plan ahead. Now, there are writers who say they don't need outlines and they don't even need revisions. I suppose I have no reason to doubt them. Some of these writers, after all, are writers who sell me under the table. These are writers who can afford small nation states. Who am I to question them? But I will say that if you're struggling with your writing, the odds that you are one of these people who can just slam out a whole manuscript without consideration or forethought are probably pretty close to zero. An outline is a low-resolution draft, a statement of intent. Very often, what's paralyzed me as a writer is the insurmountable size and complexity of the task ahead. Writing anything can be complicated. Ask anyone who sweat for hours over a text message what I mean. But writing something 100,000, 200,000 words long, that's something else entirely. Outlining allows you to break up the giant task of writing a novel, or a college essay for that matter, into manageable pieces. Outlining transforms your task for the day from writing the entire book down to writing just a chapter, a scene. It reduces the complexity, but it also clear cuts a path for you. Writing a paragraph or two about where you want the day's writing to go makes that blank page just a little bit less blank. And getting a sense of your goal in a couple sentences or paragraphs is less wasteful than getting a whole 2,000 words in and having to scrap it as a false start. Better to scrap the couple paragraph summary for not working out than the whole day's work. Measure twice, cut once, as my father always says. He's talking about woodworking, but the principle is the same. Knocking out a plan at low resolution helps you resolve a lot of questions in advance, and it gives you a roadmap. Now, does that mean you should be deaf to inspiration when it strikes? Hell no. Adjust your plans, but if you can't write, it helps to take 10 minutes to break down your vision. Writing ultimately is just that, breaking down your vision into words and getting that vision onto the page. Like I say, it isn't witchcraft, it's just craft. There are no muses. It's just you, and maybe that's part of it. I get nervous when it comes time to write big scenes in Hadrian's story, scenes I've thought about and imagined for almost 10 years now. I get performance anxiety. How could I possibly hope to get a scene right when it's been looming over me for so long? Writers are lucky, though. We get to perform alone. The audience comes later, if they come at all. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to backtrack. It's okay to start again. It's just not okay to stop. I spoke once with a lady at a convention. She was maybe just a little younger than me. She was writing a memoir, she said, trying to work through some abuse that she'd suffered as a child. And she said it was hard for her to revisit all of that, to just keep writing was really making her life more difficult. And that's about the best reason for writer's block I've ever heard. She asked me what she could do about it because she thought that finishing the book would really help her work through the trauma she'd experienced, which from a psychological, scientific standpoint, I think she's exactly right. And so I told her she should keep trying. I told her to break it down, not just into an outline like I've been talking about, but into daily goals. I have 1,000-word minimum when I sit down to write, barring days that are a complete wash like Andy's graduation. But I told her she could decide what that minimum was, and that's true for all of you. If it's just 1,000 words, that's awesome, but 500, still great. I told her if all she could manage was a sentence a day, that book will still get finished. Now, A sentence a day may not be enough to be a professional writer, especially not for a no-name mid-lister like me, but you don't have to be a professional to be a writer. You only have to write. So good luck with your writing, everybody. And thank you all for tuning in. As always, if you're new to the channel and want to check out my books, links are in the description that'll let you do just that. Remember to pre-order Demon in White, which is out on July 28th in the US and I think the 30th in the UK. And don't forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. By the way, this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be doing a reading from Demon in White on the Mayday Con live stream. Links to that will be on my Facebook and Twitter pages. And I'll be back again soon with another video.